Welcome back. Joining me this morning, we have Tonya Weathersbee with the Florida Times-Union, Gene Wexler of WOKV Radio, and Fred Matthews of Examiner.com. Thank you all for being with us. Big topic this week. It surely is going to be a big topic. Next week, sequestration. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think if it were the cliff, we would definitely be going over it. It appears we are going to go over the cliff of sequestration. The parties are not going to agree. The Republicans are not going to be bluffed again, they say, by the president. They're going to hold the line, no taxes, at least for the time being. And the president has pretty much consigned himself to the fact there's no need in wasting more time trying to, although he did place a call to the Speaker of the House and the minority leader in the Senate this past week to try to talk to them friendly. But we're going to have sequestration and all that goes with it.
Are you worried?
No, I think most Americans, most voters who pay attention to the last two over-the-cliff moves are not really worried about it. The persons who are concerned and should be concerned are those federal workers. And because they're going to be furloughed as the weeks go through. We've got about 3 weeks of this. So they're the ones who should be concerned. Those who hold government contracts and looking to get paid, they're the ones who are going to get concerned. But as far as most of the average citizens concerned, we're not going to feel any effects of this.
I'm not sure if we're not going to feel any effects from that, because if you have federal workers who get furloughed, and there's a lot of them that get furloughed, we can experience maybe a reduction in services on some level. I'm not sure exactly what level, but at some particular level. But the thing that I find frustrating, and it's a common thing, and I guess there's not a whole lot you can do about it, is that on this issue we're getting more spin than solutions. You have the GOP calling it the Obama sequestration, and we all know this thing was hatched in 2011 when they were trying to come up with a deal for the debt ceiling negotiations, and that is part of it that's particularly maddening. But I think we may feel some, depending on the degree of cuts at the government levels, that affect the services we receive as citizens.
I would agree with Fred that we're going to see a lot more finger pointing this week, and we're not really going to get to any sort of deal. The question I have when it comes to this, I think it will affect us. I want to know how much it will affect us. Yeah. The extent of the effects, I think, is what's in question, because, you know, ABC News just put out this piece with this list of 57 ways sequestration can affect us. We'll be less ready. Our military will be less ready. You know, cuts to here, cuts there. Huge list. Obviously, I didn't memorize it, but one of the debates I'm hearing now is how much will this affect us, and, you know, is one side trying to play it up more? Are the Democrats trying to play up? See, remember, Obama said these are, what was the word he used? These are huge cuts. They're a burden. He used a word like that.
Well, it was pretty dire. He was making it real dire.
It's dire in that we should not continue to fool around with this. It is a bit of gamesmanship, because Republicans feel that they've lost the last two. The president has gotten the tax cut area that he wanted. I mean, those above, I think he wanted $250,000. He got $400,000. So those above that are the ones who will be affected by the tax increases. All of us have already gotten the tax increase in our paychecks. The payroll tax has already gone up. So that particular part of it is there. The Defense Department has long since known that they were going to get some cuts. They're going to get cut anyway, because we're pulling back from Afghanistan. We're already out of Iraq. So a lot of those kinds of cuts that would have been right in our face cuts have already happened. What is sort of off the table from this, believe it or not, are those entitlement programs. Nothing's going to happen to Medicaid. We see what the discussion is on Medicare. Those things are not on the table. The Republicans want those items on the table as part of the cuts, and that's part of what the difference is between the two sides.
But Fred, also the question is it cutting the federal budget? That's another thing that's up for debate. WOKV's Washington correspondent, Jamie Dupree, he just wrote out an entry. He says that it actually will cut the federal budget. We're talking, you know, tens of billions of dollars here. His point is that it actually does cut the budget. So in essence, it actually is doing what it was meant to do. However, that's debatable. Some people are still saying there's too much spending in it and it isn't actually cutting the budget. So we're not really sure of the effects. We're not
and
really
how
sure
we're going to feel it at the ground level once all of these things happen. Quite frankly, I think after the fiscal cliff and everything, I think the public is a little weary of all of this right now, and probably is in a position where say, well, whatever happens, happens. Just like you said.
And that's the point. We're not having a discussion among grown-ups on both sides.
Absolutely.
What we have here is now the president has proposed, okay, guys, let's just go ahead and delay it for another year. and be done with it. Let's go on into your re-election, the House elections in 2014, and be done with it. The Republicans indicate that they want to have less spending from the president than he's proposing, but again, no solid proposal, no compromise between the two, and that's what we're lacking here, and that's what the American public wants. They want to see some discussion, they want to see some give and take, and there's not going to be any for the time being. So we're going to go through about 3 weeks, at least, during this sequestration, maybe a little less, but at least 3 weeks before the pain begins to show up, before contractors begin to complain, before we actually start seeing federal workers not answering phones and not being where they need to be. When you see things like TSA start to get cut, that's when you're going to see it. That's when the discussions are going to really start.
Long waits in the airports, as they're saying.
Yeah.
All right, quickly, because we only have about a minute left, what do you think about Governor Rick Scott's flip-flop this week on Medicaid?
Unfortunate for him.
I think that there was a compromise there. From what I read, it's that he agreed to do this because they agreed to let him privatize some parts of it. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, it's kind of it's political season, so a lot of interesting things will happen at this point.
Tara, really quickly, whether the decision is good or bad, that's up to the Floridians, but you know, he'll get that flip-flop label for sure.
All right, we have time for one more quick question. Who do you think is going to win the Daytona 500? Will Danica Patrick win it all? Fred?
I don't. I think it's much to do about very little. No, I don't think she's going to win it all.
No. Tonya? No?
Holding out for Tony Stewart.
Okay, Tony Stewart. Yeah. All right, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. And when we come back, a moment with Mike.